For 6 years, this ram kept wolves in terror. You'll be shocked when you find out why. There once was a merino sheep named Shrek who lived on a farm in South Island, New Zealand. When he was 4 years old, he decided to strike out on his own, and so he ran away from home. Escaping into the surrounding wilderness, he spent his time happily grazing and exploring the beautiful landscape. To avoid detection, he hid in local caves where he knew he'd be safe. Shrek was just your ordinary merino sheep living in South Island, New Zealand. That is until the year 2004, when he skyrocketed to fame over his ginormous wool coat. Usually, merino sheep have their coats sheared once a year, but Shrek the sheep hated nothing more than having his coat removed, and so he devised a plan to avoid shearing forever. He was going to escape and run away. For 6 years, Shrek's escape proved successful after he got out of his enclosure and made a break for it, spending his time hiding in local caves. Eventually, Shrek was discovered, although he looked nothing like the Shrek his owners remembered. John Pyrrhium, Shrek's owner, described Shrek. He looked like some biblical creature. Some breeds of sheep naturally shed their wool each year, but merino sheep, typically raised for meat, never shed their fleece. Hidden behind cave walls, far from any shearing blades, Shrek's wool continued to grow and grow and grow some more. In fact, after 6 years without any haircuts, Shrek had enough wool to produce 20 suits for men, large men. Each year, Shrek continued to grow the normal amount of hair for a merino sheep, but since it was never shed or cut off, he was found with 6 times the average amount of merino fleece. His fleece in total weighed around 60 pounds. This caused many to ask if the sheep fleece would continually grow forever without being sheared. Dave Thomas, the head of sheep studies at the University of Wisconsin-Madison, says that the merino sheep will forever continue to grow incredible amounts of wool without being sheared. Almost all year long, this type of sheep continues to pack on the fleece. So, is it ever dangerous to have so much fleece? Dave Thomas admits that all of this wool can become a health and safety concern for sheep, especially if they are in very hot conditions, in which case heat stress can become a real issue. Also, if a sheep's wool becomes too large, they can get stuck on their backs, unable to get up. Shrek is not the only sheep to hate the shearing process. Although it's a quick and pain-free ordeal that sheep get more and more comfortable with as they age, baby sheep tend to have the most disdain for shearing, causing a lot of commotion the first few times they experience the process. Once they learn it is not painful and doesn't negatively impact their life, they tend to become docile about it. When done by an experienced individual, shearing only takes around 5 to 10 minutes max. Shrek hardly looked anything like a sheep with so much fleece. In fact, his eyes disappeared to be completely covered. People couldn't get enough of the cute little rebel, and so when he was finally sheared, it was broadcasted on New Zealand's national television for all to witness. Shrek was also famous enough to meet the Prime Minister of New Zealand at the time, Helen Clark. All of Shrek's fleece was auctioned off to support medical charities for children. Shrek has since been depicted in children's books and made his fair share of charity appearances. Under a watchful eye, of course. After all, Shrek is a runaway rebel sheep at heart. Shrek's time in the limelight didn't end there. He went on to appear in many children's books and made guest appearances for various charities. Perhaps the highlight of his fame, and the craziest thing he ever experienced, came 2 years after his initial TV appearance, when he was once again sheared on live TV. This time, however, he got his hair cut while on an iceberg that was floating off the coast of Dunedin, New Zealand. 2 years after Shrek was first sheared on national television, he was sheared for live TV again, this time floating on an iceberg just off the coast of Dunedin, New Zealand. Considering most sheep live for just 6 years before being sent to slaughter, it's a miracle that Shrek lived that long. And though Shrek is no longer with us, the story of the determined and beguiling sheep in his cave will remain forever in our hearts. Dolly, the cloned mammal. The sheep Dolly was the world's first mammal to be cloned. She was born July 5, 1996, from 3 different mothers. Her genetic mother provided the DNA, her second mother provided the egg into which the DNA was injected, and a third mother carried the embryo. It took 276 attempts before the experiment was successful. World's oldest sheep. The world's oldest sheep, Lucky, died in November 2009 at the age of 23. Lucky's age was twice the life expectancy of a sheep. The previous record for longevity was held by George from Australia. George died in his sleep in 2006 at the age of 21. They both were recognized by the Guinness World Records for being the oldest living sheep. West Bank Miracle Lamb. In March 2004, a lamb was born and what looked like Allah was spelled out in Arabic on its back. When she was born, many Palestinians visited West Bank to see the miracle lamb. Based on our research, we rated partly false the claim that a sheep hid in the mountains for 6 years and grew 60 pounds of wool, which protected him from wolves. Sadly, the adorable and rebellious sheep passed away in 2011. He was 16 years old. Rest in peace, Shrek. You'll be loved and adored forever.